Public squares crowded in Juazeiro do Norte, squares in downtown São Paulo, parks in Campo Grande, hundreds of teenagers gathered under the same pretext, competing to see who can farm the most aura. For those of you who have never seen it and don't know what it's about, I want to show you some images because honestly, I think I'm getting too old for this. I didn't know what this aura farming thing was. I thought it was just some term that some trendy kids use, but I was wrong. It's even become a competition now. Let's take a look together at what this aura farming is all about. What is farming? What is this farming thing? Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Idiots will take over the world, not because they're better, but because there are so many of them. As Nelson Rodriguez once said, they don't read, they don't study, and they don't question. They repeat slogans without knowledge, they applaud, but they don't understand. Nowadays, stupidity moves in groups, and groups become trends. Thinking hurts, repeating brings comfort. The masses have never conveyed the truth, and you who see beyond that suffer, and that pain doesn't lie, but it turns into loneliness.
The scene for those watching from the outside looks like a dystopian parody. Young people climb onto makeshift stages to make stiff facial expressions, disconnected steps, and rehearsed gestures, while an audience screams and validates the performance in exchange for cash or virtual coins. The term came from video games farming, the act of accumulating resources repeatedly. But the aura here is not an indicator of character, intellect, or virtue. The aura has become the shell, the illusion of presence. The ego's performance reduced to a 10-second meme. What started as a joke on TikTok turned into in-person events with cash prizes and media coverage. But what does this phenomenon reveal about the mental, cognitive, and social state of a generation saturated with empty stimuli? Are Generation Z and Generation Alpha trading intellectual depth for the relentless pursuit of performative validation? Just to give you an idea, even actors from Rede Globo, that's right, of course, even older actors, and I mean really old ones, I'm talking about Ari Fontoura. For those who are older, you might remember the soap opera Dance Dancidez. In fact, I'm watching it right now. It's impressive how the Rotten Network, even back then, strongly attacked the traditional family, good morals, Christians, and supported leftist causes. But that's a topic for another video. Ari Fontoura, in the soap opera I'm talking about, played the role of a gym owner. He was the character Ubirajara. And he, who helped so much with leftist causes through his roles on the Rotten TV network, who has always been a strong activist, now comes out publicly to complain about the current generation that he helped to foster. But, in any case, the criticism is valid. I'll put it here for you to see. Let's watch it together. There.
Guys, what's happening to our teenagers? Now they've invented an N-Aura farming contest.
What is that?
We've already had people wanting to become animals, adults using pacifiers, and now this on top of it. Ah, there was also the reborn baby thing, right? I hope this passes soon.
Not even the actors from the Rotten TV network who worked for decades to create the society we have, to elect the politicians we have now. If it's hard for them to put up with the results of their own actions, imagine how it is for us, the conscious people. For us to understand aura farming, we need to understand the mechanics of contemporary digital language. Originally, having aura means natural charisma, a quiet, commanding presence that takes no effort. However, in today's attention economy, charisma can no longer be passive. It needs to be mass-produced, quantified, and displayed. Standardized expressions emerge, personality barcodes. By mixing the mining logic of digital games with the visceral need for social approval, young people have turned their very existence into a game metric. When such an abstract concept leaves the screens and becomes a physical competition in Brazil, something curious and disturbing happens. The public square, which historically served as a space for political debate, social interaction, and culture, is turned into a circus of brief dopamine hits. There is no message, no reflection, no genuine artistic creation. The criterion for victory in an aura championship is the ability to generate momentary noise. The winner is the one who performs the most calculated empathy or the most extravagant gesture. The spectacle, as Guy Debord defined it, ceases to be the image of the world and becomes the very world of human relations. We are now in the era of Brian Hodge. Brain rot. That expression is not just a moralistic insult from previous generations, it's also the informal diagnosis of a neurobiological change happening in real time. The human brain evolved to process information with context and causality. However, the compulsive consumption of ultra-short videos has destroyed the ability to maintain prolonged focus. To feed the brain accustomed to constant doses of dopamine, the content needs to be increasingly absurd, devoid of logic, and imperative. Disconnected terms merge into a dialect that eliminates synthesis and narrative coherence. Language ceases to be a tool for expressing critical thinking and becomes merely symptomatic noise of belonging to a group. When intelligence tests or voters' judgment are tested, the impact becomes evident. It's not about a genetic decline in IQ, but rather a functional atrophy. Analytical and text interpretation skills decline because the brain simply isn't stimulated anymore to process complex reasoning structures. For some, this generation is getting dumber, and these people have strong grounds to say that, as this young woman's video clearly shows. Let's watch together.
We are facing the stupidest generation in history, and what's coming next is going to shock a lot of people. Generation Z is not just distracted, they're unlearning how to think. And it's not even me who's saying this. The neuroscientist Michael Dermoger in the book The Factory of Digital Cretins gave a harsh warning. We are raising a generation with less cognitive ability and critical thinking. And this didn't just start now. In the 1980s, researchers began to notice something unsettling. After decades of rising, people's cognitive ability began to decline. Yes, IQ was getting lower, because it was around this time that we started trading mental effort for convenience. Handwriting gradually disappeared. Memory was outsourced to cell phones. Deep reading lost ground to quick and disposable stimulation. And when you stop writing, you also stop organizing your thoughts. Because writing by hand isn't just an old-fashioned habit. It's an exercise for the brain. It activates areas related to logic, memory, and reasoning ability. But today, most people don't even write. They just swipe. So they traded reading for dancing videos, depth for dopamine, on the cheap, and then comes the shock. We are living in the age of artificial intelligence, with a generation that's less and less trained to think for themselves. Because it's no use having AI at your fingertips if you have no frame of reference, and they still call this evolution. What's your opinion about that?
The criticism here isn't about young people's right to have silly fun. Young people of every era have had their own fashions and extravagant behaviors. The main issue is the complete lack of conceptual background. In past decades, youth subcultures emerged as social, aesthetic, or political protests. Punk, hip-hop, rock. There is a core, a protest, an idea. The aura farming movement is the culture of internet spectacle. On the other hand, they are perfectly sterile. They don't challenge reality, they numb it. Validity doesn't come from building the self, but from exposing the shell. By replacing study, deep reading, art, and the logical articulation of thought with 15-second micro-performances, vocabulary shrinks. Tolerance for frustration disappears, and the capacity for intellectual abstraction withers. If the only skill cultivated is projecting an empty self-image, the inevitable result is cognitive impoverishment. To give you an idea, There are already mayors, like Mayor Rafael Greca of Curitiba, who gave a strong response on this subject. He even went so far as to ban this type of event, which is spreading like a fever in Brazil. He banned it in his city of Cuiabá. Watch with me as the mayor gives a tough response to the reporter.
What does it mean to farm aura?
I don't know. I'm straight, so I'm not sure about these things.
I heard about it on social media this week. It got some attention. There's going to be an event now at Parque das Aguas. Are you going to participate? Do you want to check it out? How is it going to be? What is it about? Aura Farming Championship?
No, there won't be one.
There won't be one?
Not at Parque das Aguas, no. What I can tell you is that we have 67 reasons not to hold this event at Parque das Aguas. And with that, I can confirm for you there hasn't been any request with the Public Order Department and no permit has been issued. There won't be any championship event or anything like aura farming at Parque das Aguas. I saw a video online claiming otherwise, but that's not true.
And for the organization that wants to hold this event, what is the procedure they should follow?
Rent a private space and hold the event there in a private space, just like any other private activity can be done in a private venue. But at Parque das Aguas, it won't happen. I don't see any public interest justification for this to happen, right? So what's the public interest justification? Distorting the concept of mental health, distorting some other activities for our children and teenagers, bringing a culture that doesn't produce an educational or uplifting effect. That's not in the public interest, so it won't happen.
Real aura isn't farmed in a public square under the screams of a crowd addicted to algorithms. True presence, if we want to use that term, comes from knowledge, self-mastery, the ability to articulate, and real impact on people's lives. The Aura Championship and the brain rot epidemic, in other words, a rotting brain, are symptoms of a digital ecosystem designed to profit from superficiality. While short video platforms make billions by retaining attention and teenagers engage in fads and fleeting trends, the cognitive capacity of an entire generation is being auctioned off in the process. Disconnecting from this cycle is not an act of rejecting modernity, but of intellectual survival. Resuming reading, developing critical thinking, and refusing to turn oneself into a mere collector of virtual validation is the first step to getting out of this spectacle. A video like this, my dear brother, for people used to short videos, seems like torture. For you, awakened one, what I read most in the comments is, wow, the video is 20 minutes long, the video is 15 minutes long, and it went by as if it were 3 or 4 minutes. Why? Because you are always learning. You don't waste your time with garbage. You don't fill your head with junk. And that's what has been creating an even bigger gap between citizens themselves. As you can see, even in the economy, wealth is becoming more and more unevenly distributed. Unfortunately, many of these airheads end up filling their pockets with money. That's why, for example, Porsches end up with funk musicians who set fire to and destroy these cars. But those are 1 in a million. The big truth is that most of these aura farmers traded the chance to become smarter for applause, for a like. And that, my noble and dear brothers, sooner or later comes at a very high price. Anyway, our video ends here. I hope you enjoyed it and above all, understood it. For fathers and mothers, my noble and dear brothers, it's hard to raise children these days. I know that very well. With widespread violence and the inability of citizens themselves, by order of the state, to protect their families, it's something that really complicates things. Parents themselves no longer encourage their children to go outside and play with the neighbors. They say, stay at home, stay on the internet, watch videos, keep yourself entertained. But they forget that this also comes at a very high price. What should you do in a situation like this? As a father or mother, I believe you need to supervise. It's not about forbidding, but encouraging your children to retain content that is interesting, that adds value, that leaves a message or some knowledge with them. I think that can make a difference in the future. I want to thank you for being here. Please hit like, and I also ask you to share this. Show it to more people. A lot of people, when they see these so-called aura farming championships, think they're funny, think they're entertaining, and have a good laugh. At least it distracts the mind. But they forget the price that's being paid by each of their own children. So my brothers, share this. I'll wrap up here. May God be with you all. Hugs. And we keep facing the supernatural together here on Encarando O Sobrenatural Official. I'm out.